I lost a very old and dear friend just before Christmas. I met Paul when I was in seminary in my intern year, where they would send us out to a church and we would serve as a pastor's assistant to kind of help us get to know what real ministry was like. And Paul, he invited me out for lunch, and I found out that Paul got to know every one of the seminarians that came each and every year to the church, because he liked to sort of pick their brains and size them up and figure out whether they really had what it took to become a pastor. And so we would meet for lunch and we would talk, and he would focus in on something that he thought the church wasn't doing. And what he would say is he would stop and he would say, "Don't you think we ought to be doing that?" And I would say, "Yes." And he would chuckle, kind of his way of approving, like, "Well, I don't know, maybe, just maybe, he might make a pastor." Well, throughout the years, Paul would call me and connect with me, and he would always find out, he would always want to know, what's going on in your church? How are things going? And I would try to give him a report, kind of a rundown on what we were doing and a description of our ministry. And he would always kind of respond after he heard that. He says, "Well, sounds like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing." And then he would chuckle. I don't know, I guess this Christmas, after Paul's death, I just was thinking about him all the time. And it's just that one question about what we're supposed to be doing. And you know, I realized that somehow, I didn't even realize it, but that question somehow got very deep inside of me. Into maybe one of those places that's the deepest place. Because what I found was that I think part of my personality kind of got altered after that. Because, you know, when I would run into something and I would ask myself about what we should be doing. Are we supposed to do that? And if I would say yes, well, you know, it's sort of like it got put on a list. I mean, if you say yes, we're supposed to be doing that, well, doesn't that mean that you have to do it? And when that happens inside of me, you know, I don't have to go pray about it. I don't have to think about it. I just kind of kick in and go and do it. You know, some people say that's a fault on my part, you know, like you just go out there and charge and do it. But it seems to be a way that I kind of am. Because when I realize that there's something I'm supposed to be doing, and the answer is yes, then it needs to be done. I'm just wondering, you know, as you're thinking about your life, is there something that you should be doing? I mean, something from a very deep place inside of you, just coming up and saying, you know, this is something you should be doing. And when it does, is it something that inside of you somewhere there's this voice that's saying, yes. And you may be a little bit reluctant about putting it on the list, you know? But it's there. It's there. You know, this is kind of a panicky time that we're in right now. We've got a lot of things that are changing around us, and I don't know, do you find yourself just kind of asking the question, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to be doing with all the change that's happening around us? I mean, you think about lifestyle stuff. I'm sure you've been looking at your budget and saying, well, I don't know, should I do something about the way that I'm spending my money? Well, think about, whether whether we should be with this person or be involved in that activity, or what, is it safe? Am I being safe? Or thinking about the whole lifestyle issue of just about whether you want to keep the kids at home and not let them go to school, or you want to work at home and not expose yourself. I mean, are you thinking about some of those things and thinking to yourself like, what am I supposed to do here? Or maybe some of those are relationship kind of issues where you're thinking about yourself. I'm wondering if what I'm supposed to do, is there someone in your family that needs a little bit more attention? Are you beginning to realize that during this season of change and pandemic, there are people in your family that just need you more? Are you looking around at maybe the relationships and thinking, I got to invest more here because I need it and they need it as well? Is it something you should be doing? And what about spiritually? Is there something you need to be doing? Maybe really doing a hardcore evaluation of what's going on in your life and saying, I need to put Jesus Christ first. Maybe you're thinking to yourself that I really need to put myself out there because there's some people that really need some help. And I'm supposed to be doing that. Or maybe you're thinking to yourself that, all these worries and concerns and all these scenarios that just keep flooding through my mind, I should give those to Jesus. Let him carry that weight. Just stick it in his backpack, right? Yeah. And maybe in this time when you think about what you should be doing, maybe you're thinking that there's some giving that you need to do that's important for you and for where that's going to go and what that's going to do. This is a panicky time when we're thinking about those things. This week, I was reading Psalm 11. And the Psalms have always been kind of strange to me. They're not really a story, right? Have you ever started reading one of the Psalms, and it's just talking about this happened and enemies are coming and woe is me and my life is in the pit and all this and, now I'm going to praise the Lord. I mean, I'm just thinking like, what's the story? What's the plot? What's going on there? And this is what the people in the Old Testament, they took those feelings, sometimes depression, sometimes discouragement, sometimes of fear and everything, and they just pour their hearts out to God. And what some people would do is there'd be someone who sort of wrote it down. And they would give it to the music director in the temple. Now, I'm just thinking about how odd that must be something that happens, to do something like that. And that more than 75 of the Psalms are something that was written about what was going on in David's life. There's only 150 Psalms. That's more than half of them are talking about stuff that's going on in David's life. And some of it's really bad, and it's struggling, and it's grief, and it's sorrow, and I'm so sorry, God, I did this. And, is there any hope for me? Is there going to be any mercy in your heart for me? And he pouring it out, and they just wrote it out and took it to church and sang it. I've just been thinking about that. And, I have one of those verses about what's going on this last week right here at the Spirit of Life. And I was wondering if our gentleman in the praise band could come forward and kind of help me out with this. I want to give you a flavor and a feeling of, what this is like. It's Psalm 1. At Spirit of Life Church. Now let me, in full disclosure, Maybe we can give these guys some light back here, so we can see them here. Yeah. All right. In full disclosure, Melody actually wrote this and came and gave it to me yesterday. Said, I just feel like God wanted me to write it and give it to you. So, I was thinking about singing it, huh? Okay, well, this is our psalm, Psalm 1, Spirit of Life. Let's go, Galen. Oh, Lord, it's been a really hard week. That Spirit of Life in Sugarland. Pastor Miller is being squirrely. Oh, Lord, tell us what we can do. Oh, Lord, tell us what we can do. Hallelujah! Thanks, guys. I really should never do this. And I realize that, but the thing is that these psalms were places where people just brought their emotions, their sorrows, their fears, their struggling. And the psalm was a way in which people struggled to kind of figure out, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? And Psalm 11 it's a serious psalm. And let me give you a little bit about the backstory to this. Enemies had attacked Jerusalem and the palace of David, King David. And his counselors came to him, and they said to him, the nation is in peril. The palace is attacked. We have assassins that are roaming through the palace looking for you. And his counselor says, you got to get out. You got to flee. And David realized that if he left, that was the worst thing that could happen, for him to leave. And so he was trying to, what am I supposed to do in this panicky moment? What am I supposed to do? And it's written in Psalm 11, verses 3 and 4. It says, the foundations are being destroyed. What can the righteous do? The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord is on his heavenly throne. This is how the people in the Old Testament processed what was going on. Like, the foundations of my life are being shaken. My life is turned upside down. And what can a righteous person do? What should a righteous person do? And as he's asking himself what to do, and as his counselors are saying, you need to get out of Dodge. Run. He's saying, no, that's not what I'm supposed to do. He says, the Lord is in his holy temple, and the Lord is on his heavenly throne. And that's what was going on in David's heart. First, the fear. I'm under danger. The sorrow that the nation is being attacked, and he is the object of assassins. And he says I'm not going to run, because what I'm supposed to do is to realize that the Lord is in his holy temple and the Lord is on his heavenly throne. I think it's so important for us to hear that in this panicky time that we're living in, where we're not sure what to do, where we feel this thing going on inside of, I have to do something. And to have that restraint to reach deep inside in that place where you know when Jesus is telling you yes. David reached down in that place where he says, running away? No. but the Lord is in his temple, and the Lord is on his heavenly throne. That was a yes, and that clarified it for him. Because there's two words here. One is a word for your head, and the other one is a word for your heart. The word that's for your head is that God is on his heavenly throne. That's a word for your head. You know why? Because we need to get our head adjusted to the fact that God is infinitely above us, majestic and beyond anything that we can fathom. And when we feel like the world's out of control, and we think like, well, I got to get it under control, and when we can't and we panic, what this psalm is telling us is to get our heads straight and to understand that God is on his throne in heaven. That means that God is in charge. God is in charge. He's in charge, and he has a plan. Now, you know, a lot of times people that are going through difficult times say, Pastor, you always say that there's a plan. What's this plan? What's the plan of this pandemic? You know, why did one of my loved ones pass away? Why this tragedy? Why is our nation in this mess that it's in? And we think to ourselves like, I can't understand. Why would God do that? You know, we can't answer that question, can we? We can't fully answer that question. But because we can't answer, does that not mean that there is an answer? You see, that's what it's like. If I can't figure out an answer, there must not be one. That's false. God who sits on a throne, infinitely powerful and sovereign over everything, he promises us and he tells us that he's in control and that he uses all things that are going on around us in our lives, the good and the bad, for his purpose, to work his purpose. And what he's saying, there is a plan, and he is in control. And when we look at these panicky things that go on in our life, and we think to ourselves, what should I do? The psalmist telling us the first thing is to get it into your head that God is on his throne. He's in control, and he has a plan. And to realize that the human story is a great epic that's written, and it's written in the Scriptures. And this great epic that is written out is telling us who God is and what he has done in this world and how he feels about us and how he's reaching out to us. And your life, you need to understand, your life is a page. Right here today is a page in that epic drama. Because God has called you into that drama. And if you look around you and see what's going on and said, I don't understand the plot, I don't understand what's going on, we need to understand that God's in control. He has a plan. It's in this story, and he is using us, and we are living through this story. And it's something that he wants in the big epic book. In fact, it's the kind of stuff that's in the books that God has in heaven. And how God is using us in ways that we can't even fathom or realize. We have to get that into our head, because we're not going to be able to understand a whole lot of stuff that happens to us in our lives. But what the psalmist is saying is God is in control. And God has a plan. And that's for our head. To get our heads straight. To get that planted inside of us. So that as we think and as we try to manage our fears and our concerns like David was doing there, what we can do is have that in our head as we stop and we try to answer the question, what am I supposed to do? The second message there is for the heart. It's for the heart. And that message is that The Lord is in his holy temple. The holy temple isn't infinitely far away from us, but the temple is here among us. It was there for David too. A place where he could go because at that place God had promised to meet him. You need, our hearts gravitate to the real presence of Jesus in our lives. It gravitates to Jesus being near us, his promise to be near us. And what we understand from that is that Jesus is in his temple. Jesus is in his temple. This place is never empty. Do you realize that? No house of God is ever empty. Because God's always waiting to meet us there. You know, our lives are never empty. We're never alone because we know Jesus says that I will be with you wherever you go. And he's given us a Holy Spirit that is working inside each of us. We're not alone. We are not alone. But here's the word for our heart, and that is that we have a temple. And let's just say our church. This is a place that's special. When you come in here, you come into the presence of Jesus. He's waiting for you. You don't have to sing real good for him to show up. You don't have to beg him to come from his throne in heaven. He was here before you ever got here. And he will be here every moment that you ever are in this place. And what is he here waiting to do? And that is to connect to each and every one of us. When we walk into a church, walk in and I feel the presence of God when I walk into church. When I walk into any church, I walk in and I'm aware that that place is holy ground. It's holy ground. When we come into our church, it's the holy ground where God is here to meet us, where Jesus is here to meet us. And when we are here, we walk in and smell the place. You can close your eyes and walk in this place and you'll recognize it. You'll come in and when you look around, you see this place. And when you come in and you sit you sit down, you probably have your spot, right? You know, I preach in front of you guys all the time, and you guys always sit in kind of the same place, right? Nobody's here. You come in, you sit down in your same place, and you'll feel the presence of the Lord. You can pray. All the distractions are gone. You might sense the presence of angels in this place. You might in that quietness in which you're here, you might hear the Lord speaking to you. And when we come on a day when we're gathering together to have church, we're walking in and Jesus has been waiting. When we walk in, he's there. And the neat thing is that when we think about the church, that we look around and we see other people and we realize that all of those people have in some way been used by God to influence and impact us. If you come into this church for the very first time and you start meeting some people, you know, those people that come up to with you, they might become the most important influencers in your entire life. Forgetting internet influencers. What about those spiritual influencers? Those people where you're going to connect with them and God is going to use their words. And you know this with when you have those spiritual friends and those folks and you realize, God has brought me this person and I'm supposed to be connected to them. And you know you're supposed to listen to them. And they speak some words to you, and you feel how God is crafting and shaping and dealing with your life through them. That's the way God works. That's the way it works. And you will be used in the same way for other people. And we got to get that into our heart, because we know that when we are here, we are near to Jesus. Because we look around and we see the cross. And there's a reason why we got a big one. And there's a reason why it's right in the middle. And it's a reason why we light it up. And the reason is for each of us to stop and remember and understand what Jesus did on that cross for us. That proves without a shadow of a doubt that no matter where we are, no matter what we've done, He loves us. I'm telling you, when those kids came up there and Donna showed them the calendar and talked about a day in the past she wasn't too proud of, raised that up and look, there's a big fat X over that day. Wasn't that cool? That's forgiveness, isn't it? We don't have to carry the calendars of our entire lifetime with all those stinking things on those days that we go and we confess those to Jesus Christ and forgive them. They're gone. They are gone. Did you know that every one of your life calendars, the ones that matter with Jesus, you know, they start with today. Isn't that what we believe about God's love and His forgiveness? There is no yesterday. There is no responsibility and facing the shame and judgment of yesterday. Because the gospel of Jesus Christ says that day's gone. I took care of that on the cross for you. And now it's about today and what you're supposed to do. And what I'm going to be doing inside of you. It's about what's inside of us that's really calling us forward. I want to tell you, there is no place like this. You know, I'm so thankful that we have a lot of technology. But watching something streamed is not like this. And I'm glad that we can do it. I'm glad that we can do that, because some folks can't be here. But technology cannot replace the presence of Jesus Christ. It can't replace the presence of Jesus. For us coming to this place on holy ground, I can't hardly stand not being here. You know, I dread these days when I'm really, really sick. Because I got to be near death's door. Otherwise, I think I can just kind of drag myself here and sit off in a corner if I need to. But that's because this place is the presence of God. And the wonderful thing about Jesus is that even when we walk out the doors, He goes with us. We're never apart from Him. But this is His house. It's special when we come to this house. The way God touches us and works inside of us. And I believe that in this place, what we're supposed to do gets clarified, you know? So I'm gonna ask you again, is there something that you're supposed to be doing? I could still hear that voice of Paul saying, what are we supposed to be doing? What are we supposed to be doing? And I'm just asking for you to let that thing that's really deep inside of you, let it just reveal itself to you. What is it that God at this moment really wants you to do? What you're supposed to do? And I want to challenge you to say, yeah, yes, yes. And let that help you face this moment which is so chaotic. This whole moment that is, just so panicky. What did Jesus is saying to you, what you're supposed to do? I mean, let it get stuck on a list, Like, yes, I'm supposed to do it. Put it on a list. If you put something on a list, that's kind of like, hey, I really got to do it, right? I don't want it to be a burden on you, but this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to do. Let your heart and what Jesus has planted inside of you just speak up to you. Because when you realize that God is on his throne, he's in control and has a plan. When you realize that Jesus is near your heart and with you, I don't care how panicky the moment, you can do anything. You can do anything. And you're going to do what you're supposed to do. You can do it. Today, I just want to challenge you. I mean, if you could just take that one phrase, what am I supposed to do? And you can just bring yourself to that place where you say yes to it. And then move toward it. Find a way to do it. Believe that it's part of God's plan and he's going to use it in some kind of way. Know that Jesus is near and he's going to help you. And just do it. I kind of believe that sort of somewhere in the back of my mind I hear that Paul's chuckle like, yeah. Because that's the way he gave encouragement and affirmation. Yeah, that's right. And I know that if I just keep focused on that, maybe someday, just someday, I might be the pastor God really wants me to be. And you'll be the person that God wants